Poetic justice for Francisco Lindor, and how about those baby New York Mets? Welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watt2K99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. I want to start off by saying a quick thank you to all subscribers of this channel. We just crossed the 600 subscriber mark plateau. I'm thrilled about it. I want to thank everybody who has come along for the ride, and now it's upward and onward to 700, and let's keep going from there. Why not? So I gotta come on. I'm feeling in a pretty good mood. The New York Mets, when they beat the Tampa Bay Rays in that second game of that 3-game series, I came on and said, could this game be the turning point? Because I was looking for a change in the vibe. It wasn't so much about winning a game. It was about changing the countenance. It was about changing the mojo. And since then, man, the Mets have been something else. Now, I'm not going to say that they've been a juggernaut. There are still concerns. There's still some absolute dead weight on this roster, both in the bullpen, in the starting rotation, and in the lineup. And, the pitching does concern me, but you got to say this if nothing else. This team is resilient. This team is tough. And to me, baseball is always the most fun. There's something about the New York Mets. The Mets rarely dominate. Game in, game out. They don't blow teams out by 7-8 runs like maybe the Yankees, the Red Sox, or the Dodgers would. No, they tend to come back. They tend to be scrappy. That is Mets baseball at its best. And you know what? Mets fans, more on the blue-collar side, that's pretty much the way that we would have it, if we're being honest about it. But I want to talk first about Francisco Lindor. Jason Kipnis, Lindor's old teammate in Cleveland, basically took a shot at Lindor without taking a shot at Lindor. He talked about the Mets not having enough leadership, and when his co-host or whatever said, well, you play with Lindor, he's on the team, he said, I know what I said. Basically, for all intents and purposes, he said, yes, I know what I said, the team doesn't have leadership. And he made that comment on Friday morning on his podcast. And it just so happened to coincide with the time that the Mets were playing the Cleveland Guardians for the first time since the trade a couple of years ago when Lindor, along with Cookie Carrasco, went to the Mets for Andresgimenez, Amedrosario, and 2 prospects. And there's been a lot of talk lately about who really won that trade. To me, it's been a win for both sides. I don't think you can really say that one team's dominated it. The 2 prospects we haven't heard anything from. Rosario was regarded as one of the more highly thought of prospects in baseball. It hasn't worked out for him. He's really been more of a good all-around player, but by no means would you call him, one of your foundation players. Just an okay player to have in the lineup. Gimenez had a great season last year, came in 6th in the MVP voting. Hadn't been too hot this year, though. His average is in the 230s. He's got 1 home run in 7 weeks. He's been a fine player, but yeah, this year it's been a bit of a step back. And on the other hand, Carrasco missed his whole first season with an injury. Came back, had a very good season, I felt, last year, made 30 starts. And Lindor has slowly, in my mind, gotten better and better. He's not a player who's going to hit 300. He's more of a power RBI guy, plays excellent defense, can run really well, and he's a player that the real defining legacy of Francisco Lindor is what is he going to do in the big spots. That's what it's going to be all about, and he came up with that opportunity tonight, but more on that later. So with this game, the Mets actually got back to the 500 mark. They're 23-23. It was not a good start to the game, however, as Carrasco gives up a 3-run bomb to Joshnaylor in the first inning, his first outing back from the injured list. The Mets have given up in their 46 games 41 runs in the first inning. It's hard to know what to do to fix that. But yeah, 41 runs in 46 first innings is just unacceptable. So Carrasco did settle in a little bit. He did retire 7 batters in a row at one point, but his ERA is now 8.68. An 8.68 ERA. That's like an ERA you would expect to see from career double A pitcher during spring training. Oh my gosh. But then again, for the people say, well, we got to get Carrasco out. Got to bring Lucchesi up. Lucchesi was pretty much as bad his last 2 outings, and he wasn't giving the Mets length either. He wasn't taking them through 5 innings. So I'm rolling with Carrasco for a little bit longer. I don't want to see David Peterson back here again for a long, long time. So, and by the way, I'm very glad to see the news on Jose Quintana that his health is looking pretty good. And realistically, he looks like he could be about 4 to 6 weeks away from returning to the starting rotation. So that is very, very good news. But the Mets do eventually come back. Francisco Alvarez with a home run. Jeff McNeil with an RBI single to drive in Francisco Lindor. When they made the game 5-2, and that was in the 5th inning, I started to have a little bit of confidence. I'm like, okay, I don't know if they're going to win this game, but they're going to battle. I knew at that point it was going to be a battle. And then brettbaty, the next inning, in the 6th, hits a home run. It's now a 5-3 game. But then Cleveland starts to take advantage a little bit in the 7th inning. Buck Showalter brings in Dominic Leone to pitch out of the bullpen. Doesn't have a very good outing. Then he brings in Steven Nagosek to relieve him. And Joshnaylor again with an RBI single with the bases loaded, drives in 2. It's now a 7-3 Cleveland lead. But then the Mets come back. Those indomitable, unstoppable Mets, bottom of the 7th inning. Brandonnimmo walk, Francisco Lindor base hit. Jeff McNeil walk, bases loaded for Petealonso facing James Karichnak. Probably mispronounced the name, but whatever. And he smashes. For the 4th straight game, Petealonso hits a home run. You know, it's amazing. When I was in D.C. for some of those games this past weekend, okay, and I had a great time, but the Mets couldn't hit a single home run in 4 games against Washington. Come on. And now Petealonso's got 4 home runs in 4 straight games. So he's halfway to the all-time Major League record for consecutive games with a home run. The record is 8, held by Don Mattingly, Ken Griffey Jr., and Dale Long, Pittsburgh Pirates of the 1950s. So, and there you go. It's a tie game. So 7-7. And then we go, let's fast forward all the way to the 10th inning. Drew Smith is now pitching for the Mets. I do want to give David Robertson credit. He pitched for the 3rd straight day. He told his manager, I could pitch, and he had a very, very good, efficient inning. I want to give him some props. But Drew Smith comes in, and I got to say, Drew Smith, I thought, had taken a step up this year. You know, last year he'd allowed 9 home runs. Tonight he allowed his first to a guy named Gabriel Arias. It was only his 4th career home run. Arias is by no means a power threat, but he takes Smith deep. It's a 9-7 game. And at that point, I got to tell you, I'm feeling pretty deflated, but I just didn't feel that the game was over. My biggest concern, honestly, was that Emmanuel Clase was pitching, and he's probably the 2nd best closer in baseball, only behind Edwin Diaz when healthy. So you have brettbaty starting the inning on second base. Starling Marte, man, oh man, I'm getting worried about him. Flies out. He does move Beatty to 3rd base, but Marte, here's a stat. He has now gone 104 at-bats without an extra base hit. He hasn't had an extra base hit since April 14th. All right, so now you have a runner on 3rd base with 1 out. Tying run up at the plate. So up comes Markvientos with a runner on 3rd base and 1 out. Knocks a single into center field. brettbaty scores, and it's a 9-8 game. And now you've got the game-tying run on 1st base. And I thought here Buck Showalter made a great move. He takes Vientos out of the game and inserts Eduardoescobar. And one thing about Escobar, not that he's a stolen base threat normally, but he can run. Like when he gets going, he gets some momentum. He runs hard. I like the idea of this. I mean, ideally, I would have liked timlocastro on this roster as a pinch runner. Unfortunately, he's going on the injured list with a sprained ligament in his thumb, so he's out for another 2 months, unfortunately. Really disappointing. I wish there was room on this roster for him, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So you've got Escobar up, and he steals 2nd base. Fantastic. But the Buck then makes a move I don't like. In the course of that at-bat, he takes Mark Canha out and puts up Danielvogelbach. For reasons known to absolutely nobody, After ball one, he takes 2 strikes before actually swinging and missing on strike 3. For Vogelbach, that's actually a productive at bat. Actually swinging the bat one time. Wow. I don't. This is what I was talking about. When they brought Vientos up, I wanted Vogelbach gone, and this is just another example as to why. So he strikes out. Up comes Franciscoalvarez, and Emmanuel gets ahead of him with a cutter and a slider. It's 0-2. But Alvarez singles to left field, and that stolen base proved to be huge because it brings him all the way around from second base, and it is bedlam in Citi Field. It's a tie game. And then up comes the top of the lineup. It's brandonnimmo with an infield single. That takes Alvarez to third, and now it's first and third. And then who else should be up but Francisco Lindor, the $341 million man, and he wasn't wasting any time. He first pitch from Class A. It's a cutter, 99 miles an hour on the inner third of the plate. He turns it, lines it right in between Gimenez at second base and Rosario at shortstop, right through, base hit, and the Mets win the game. Their 3rd straight win, 10-9 over Cleveland. Just a fantastic victory. And after, the sort of... and also I got to mention Brandon Tierney. Now, I've liked Tiki and Tierney, or Tierney and Tiki, TNT, whatever they want to call themselves, to an extent when they're talking football. I like that, but I never, ever again need to hear Tiki Barber talking baseball. I don't want to hear him talking hockey. I don't want to hear him talking basketball. I don't want to hear him talking golf, soccer, curling, figure skating, track and field, tennis, you name it. Tiki Barber can stick to football, that's it. And Brandon Tierney was talking on Friday about Cleveland winning the trade clearly. That Cleveland had gotten the better of the Mets in that trade, and Lindor answered Brandon Tierney, he answered Jason Kipnis, and every Mets fan who bemoans the contract, he shut them up with 3 hits, including the walk-off single. And I want to mention one other thing. I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of the Buck Showalter haters. It seems like what these people live for is to wait till about 2 hours before the game when the Mets lineup comes out and figure out what they can do to destroy it. The bottom line with Buck Showalter is he is going to play everybody at some point because you never know when you're going to need them for the long run. Okay? So, yesterday the Mets lineup was Nimmo, Lindor, McNeil, Alonso, Beatty, Marte, Vientos, Canna, Alvarez. All the kids played. Okay? Now, right now the hole in the lineup is Marte. If they were to IL him for a little bit, I really wouldn't have, and bring up Ronnie Mauricio, I'm fine with it. My preference would have been to bring up timlocastro, but as I've said, that's not an option right now. But Marte's been dropped in the lineup. Beatty is up to 5 in the lineup, and he offers that protection behind Alonso that we've been talking about. And I think Francisco Alvarez is on the verge of being moved up in the lineup a little bit as well. So yeah, he's starting to find his bat. It's not that he's hitting consistently, but he seems to get hits at the big moments, and we're really starting to see the power. When he hits the ball, he drives the ball. So the whole point of this is he's made some moves this past week that I found questionable, but I'm just sick and tired of people saying that he has to go because he doesn't want to play the kids. He'd rather lose with the veterans than win with the kids. Just shut up. If you're really thinking that, just stop. There's times when you're just venting on social media just to have an opinion. There's certain thoughts that you should just keep to yourself and maybe take a few moments of sincere thought and rethink them. Like Buck Showalter would rather lose with veterans than win with kids. Just stop. All right, I had to get that out. Thanks everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair.